Hi everyone, welcome back to DGMZ for a new weekend episode. For all the returning viewers, we are so glad you've decided to join us again. And for the new viewers, we are happy that you discovered the podcast and are joining us for the first time. As always, for the new viewers, my strong recommendation would be to access the introductory episode because that will give you a good insight into the motivation and objective behind the podcast. Just for your awareness, we have two playlists running. One of them goes into these weekend episodes where we get into Ghazal impressions, one Ghazal at a time from Diwan-e-Ghalib. And the second playlist is for topics other than Ghazal impressions, still focused on Urdu poetry, still focused on Mirza Ghalib, but just additional topics. So do explore both the playlists and access episodes that appeal to you. Now, if you like the content, humble request for you to click like, and if you want to be notified of our new episodes, do click subscribe. And lastly, if you know a fellow Ghalib fan or someone who would enjoy this content, do share it via your social media. We would really appreciate that. All this only if you want to. Now, today the ghazal we are going to get into is ghazal number 10 from Diwan-e-Ghalib. This is a fairly long ghazal. इसमें 12 शेर हैं. So we will have to probably do more than one episode just in interest of time. Otherwise, the episode would become too long um, if you try to cover the whole ghazal in one episode. So like always, I'm going to read the entire ghazal once and then we will get into the impressions verse by verse. So this is how it goes. मतला अर्ज किया है. सताइश-gar है zahid इस कदर जिस bagh-e-rizwan का. सताइश-gar है zahid इस कदर जिस bagh-e-rizwan का. वो एक गुलदस्ता है हम be-khudon के taaq-e-nisyan का. बयां क्या कीजिए be-daad-e-kavish-ha-e-mizhgan का. बयां क्या कीजिए be-daad-e-kavish-ha-e-mizhgan का कि हर एक qatra-e-khuun दाना है tasbih-e-marjan का. ना आई satwat-e-qatil भी माने मेरे नालों को. ना आई satwat-e-qatil भी माने मेरे नालों को. लिया दांतों में जो तिनका हुआ रेशा नयस्ता का. दिखाऊंगा तमाशा दी अगर फुर्सत जमाने ने. दिखाऊंगा तमाशा दी अगर फुर्सत जमाने ने. मेरा हर दाग-ए-दिल एक तुख्म है sarv-e-charaghan का. किया aaina-khane का वो नक्शा तेरे जलवे ने. किया aaina-khane का वो नक्शा तेरे जलवे ने. करे जो partaw-e-khurshid आलम शब्द मिस्ता का. मेरी तामीर में मुजम्मर है एक सूरत खराबी की. मेरी तामीर में मुजम्मर है एक सूरत खराबी की. हयूला बर के खिरमन का है खूने गर्म धैका का. उगा है घर में हर सू सब्जा वीरानी तमाशा कर. उगा है घर में हर सू सब्जा वीरानी तमाशा कर. मदार अब खोदने पर घास के है मेरे दरबां का. खामोशी में नहीं खूंगश्ता लाखों आरजुएं हैं. खामोशी में निहा खूगश्ता लाखों आरजुएं हैं. चरागे मुर्दा हूँ मैं बेज़बा गोरे गरेबा का. So I apologize, I read that as nahi, it is niha. So let me read that one more time. खामोशी में निहा खूंगश्ता लाखों आरजुएं हैं. चरागे मुर्दा हूँ मैं बेज़बा गोरे गरेबा का। हनोस एक परतवे नक्शे ख्याल यार बाकी है। हनोस एक परतवे नक्शे ख्याल यार बाकी है। दिल अफसुर्दा गोया हुजरा है यूसुफ के जिंदा का। बगल में गैर की आज आप सोते हैं कहीं वरना। बगल में गैर की आज आप सोते हैं कहीं वरना। सबब क्या ख्वाब में आकर तबस्सुमाए पिन्हा का। नहीं मालूम किस किस का लहू पानी हुआ होगा। नहीं मालूम किस किस का लहू पानी हुआ होगा। कयामत है सरशक आलूदा होना तेरी मिश्का का। मक्ता अर्ज किया है। नज़र में है हमारी जादाए राह फना गालिब। नज़र में है हमारी जादाए राह फना गालिब कि ये शिराजा है आलम के अजाए परेशा का। Again, a very interesting ghazal by Ghalib. And while I was going through the couplets, this is what came across to me as the background theme. It almost seems that Ghalib is trying to capture various scenarios or facets of destruction. That's how it comes through to me. And staying true to the spirit of this podcast, right? It is about my personal impression. It might not be accurate, it might not be complete, but that's how it comes across. That in every couplet he is talking about some kind of destruction, and uses again a great example to explain the concept of destruction he's trying to capture in that couplet. So hopefully that comes across to you also as we go through the impressions. Um, so let's start with the first sher. सताइश-गर है zahid इस कदर जिस bagh-e-rizwan का. So and the second line is वो एक गुलदस्ता है हम be-khudon के taaq-e-nisyan का. So the approximate translation is the priest, this paradise this priest keeps talking about or praising, right? This paradise, this paradise or this garden of paradise, this priest keeps talking about a garden which is secured by Rizwa, a garden whose gatekeeper is Rizwa. This is merely equivalent to a bouquet in terms of magnificence and beauty that was left and forgotten about in a shelf of a lover's house. That is the approximate translation. Now, when we get into the impressions, it will start blooming, if you may, right? It will start revealing all the layers in it. So, for the first line, Sataish-gar hai zahid is qadar. So, first things first, Ghalib is capturing this very interesting concept of how the holy and the religious leaders, the priests, are always talking about this paradise. Always talking about this paradise, always trying to conjure this picture of a paradise, which you should aim for, which is ultimate happiness, which has a gate, right? You cannot go past it. unless you fulfill the criterias, right, of entering paradise or heaven. So very beautifully Ghalib, this इस कदर वो जो उन्होंने वर्ड यूज़ किया है, सो ही इज़ जस्ट ट्राइंग टू इन अ वेरी सटल वे से that they kind of overdo it. They kind of overdo it all the time, talking and conjuring this picture of a beautiful, beautiful heaven or paradise at the end of life, for which we should work hard throughout this life. And only if we meet the criteria will Rizwa, the angel, who is the gatekeeper of this paradise, will let us enter. And then in the second line, he goes on to say that all this magnificence and beauty and allure of paradise that you keep talking about to me, in my humble opinion, is equivalent to the beauty and magnificence of a single bouquet of my desires and dreams and wishes as a lover that I have put in a shelf and forgotten. A shelf full of such bouquets. And this is where Ghalib is capturing that concept of indifference, indifference and nonchalance a lover has towards the concept of heaven and hell. Because according to Ghalib, a lover, thanks to being in love, gets this unique opportunity to experience both heaven and hell here on earth. And the second thing which Ghalib emphasizes in this couplet is love is what it is all about. Love is what it is all about. Love here on earth, one bouquet of the desires and wishes a true lover would conjure surpass the magnificence and beauty and pureness of the entire paradise. So he's not equating a lover's desires and dreams and wishes and the actual true love. He's not equating it to paradise in the splendor. He is actually saying that it is much more multifolded more compared to the magnificence paradise holds. And इसमें ये जो concept है of people who are in love, for lovers the paradise is right here. They believe this is the religion. Love is the religion, not the rituals and practices and teachings. All of that devoid of love will not get you where you want to be. Love is the primary ingredient if you want to reach God. And कुछ शेर आपके साथ शेयर करना चाहती हूँ which are around the same concept. So दाग-दहलवी का ये शेर है, आशिकी से मिलेगा ए जाहिद, बंदगी से खुदा नहीं मिलता. So approximate translation is, Zahid, again priest, right? Priest, you will not find God by worshipping, and here by extension empty worshipping, just worshipping and just going through the motions. You will not find God. To find God, you need to love. You need to love. Reverence, devotion, all that is good, but if you want to find him, you need to love. मुबारक अजीमाबादी का एक शेर है, रहने दे अपनी बंदगी जाहिद, बे-मोहब्बत खुदा नहीं मिलता. Again, priest, just stop doing what you're doing. This continuous cycle of worshipping and praying and rituals and practice, stop doing it. Because I'm telling you, without love, you're not going to find God. You have to find love first. You have to fall in love first. Otherwise, you are not going to find God. Love is a shortcut. You fall in love, you start loving, you will find God. Another sher by be-khudon. जाहिद खुदा गवाह है होते फलक पर आज लेते खुदा का नाम अगर आशिकी से आप. so so the same emotion, right? That priest, trust me, you would have already achieved your goals of being in heaven next to God, had you, throughout your worshipping and praying and everything, had used a little love when calling out to God. Had you called him by love or with love, you would have gotten what you wanted. But you didn't. You are just hoping that these motions will get you to where you want to be, but you won't. It won't get you where you want to be. You have to bring love in the equation. And then जिगर मुरादाबादी का एक और शेर, उसी को कहते हैं जन्नत, उसी को दोज़ख भी, वो ज़िंदगी जो हसीनों के दरमियाँ गुजरे. So basically he's saying life spent loving someone, life spent falling in love, is actually heaven and hell both. This is what heaven and hell is. A life spent falling in love. When you're getting the joys of love, you're in heaven, and when you get the pains of love, you're in hell. You experience both right here. Love makes you experience both heaven and hell right here on earth. So yeah, Ghalib very beautifully in this couplet is just establishing the fact that for a lover, this concept of something very nice at the end of the road because you were good, or this concept of something very bad at the end of the road because you've been bad, right? These concepts don't matter. They're pretty insignificant. So don't try to lure or impress on a lover the concept of heaven after death or hell after death. Because a lover, thanks to being in love, will experience heaven and hell here on earth. Many times, multiple times, and probably in much, much more magnificence and intensity than that one time heaven and hell that he's supposed to experience after death. And here, when he says Rizwa, so like I said, Rizwa is this gatekeeper of heaven. It's the angel who is at the door of heaven. Now, रिजवा की भी एक छोटी सी कहानी है which is interesting. So it is part of this Qissai al-Anbiya, which is stories of the prophet, and उसमें रिजवा की कहानी है that he's an angel, and in this book there is a story where Rizwa was given the responsibility of not letting Iblis enter heaven. Now, who is Iblis? So Iblis is the leader of devils. He's called the Shaitan. And as the story goes, Iblis was a high-ranking angel called Azazel. And he was appointed by God to obliterate original disobedient and destructive inhabitants of earth. Now, when God decided to create a successor on earth, Iblis objected to it. And when God asked everybody to bow down to this uh, inhabitant he was creating, who would live on earth, Iblis refused. And that's when God outcast him from heaven. And he came to earth and became the leader of all the devils. So Rizwa was the angel who was given the task of not letting Iblis enter Eden. And Iblis tricked Rizwa by hiding himself in the mouth of a serpent and slipped past Rizwa into Eden. And that's, I think there's a strong parallelism with the story of Adam and Eve and the apple and the serpent. But uh, why I went into that was just to emphasize the fact that Ghalib is saying that sure, sure, probably Rizwan will not let me pass through. Probably Rizwa will not let me pass through this paradise you talk about to me all the time, with Rizwa there as a gatekeeper. Probably Rizwa will not let me pass through. Probably there will be reasons for my exclusion from the paradise. But then again, let me tell you, all this beauty and splendor of the paradise that you talk about uh, is equivalent to one bouquet on a shelf full of bouquets that are in the house of a lover. And there was a tradition in olden times to have these high reach shelves on the top where things would be kept for safekeeping, right? People would not be able to access them easily. And they were like cupolas created where you would put flowers and dry them for posterity or memory. So that is the taaq or the shelf Ghalib is referring to. That we lovers every day, thanks to the love that flows through us, we create bouquets of dreams and wishes and desires and love. Such beautiful bouquets. Every day we create one for our beloved. And we keep it. And we have millions of such bouquets. And the beauty and the purity which these bouquets have in them is much, much, much more than the paradise you talk about. So, not like I said, not equating it to the paradise, but actually saying that it surpasses the beauty of the paradise. Okay, moving on to the next sher. बयां क्या कीजिए be-daad-e-kavish-ha-e-mizhgan का कि हर एक qatra-e-khuun दाना है tasbih-e-marjan का. So, coincidentally, I think it was not the last ghazal, but last to last ghazal, where we had come across tasbih and subha, the prayer beads, and I went into uh, a pretty detailed background and historical importance of this. So, if you want to access that, please feel free to. I will not repeat it in this episode. But the approximate translation of the couplet is that it is very hard for me to describe the tyranny or torture that is created by what these eyelashes do, their action, fluttering, rising, lowering down, whatever. So, whenever these eyelashes move, they wreak havoc and torture. And it is very difficult for me to capture it and explain it. But then, of course, in the second line, he does. That's Mirza for you. And he says that these eyelashes draw blood whenever they move from me. And every drop of blood that they draw from me goes and becomes a bead in the prayer bead necklace my beloved rotates or works with or prays with or meditates with. So that's the approximate translation. And here Ghalib has drawn on a very common parallelism, right? Where eyelashes, sorry, eyelashes, the more beautiful they are, the longer, stronger, and sharper they are. And one, of course, assumes that the beloved would have the prettiest of eyelashes, so the strongest, longest, and sharpest of eyelashes. And sharp in their beauty, but also that sharpness comes with a flip side to it, where it can actually injure and pierce. So that is what Ghalib is referring here, that it is just impossible for me to even uh, capture the amount of torture these eyelashes uh, bring on um, whenever they move, whenever they flutter, whenever they rise, whenever they fall, right? So, by extension, he's saying whenever my beloved looks at me or gives me any kind of look where her eyelashes move, the beauty is so intense that it's almost like a torture to watch it. And then also, of course, bringing the physical aspect that these eyelashes, in their beauty and sharpness, pierce my heart. They pierce my heart, and every time they pierce my heart, they draw a drop of blood. And that drop of blood goes and becomes a rosary bead or a subha bead in the hand of my beloved. So again, like I said, is Ghazal में torture and destruction के अलग अलग कॉन्सेप्ट्स गालिब ने बहुत प्यारी तरह कैप्चर किए. Now this is another one, right, where something so beautiful is inflicting so much torture and pain on him and drawing blood literally and figuratively from him, which he is then imagining as something that will go and contribute or go and become part of the prayer beads the beloved is holding in her hand. एक शेर ऑन दिस तस्बीह ज़रूर मेंशन करना चाहूँगी. सिराज औरंगाबादी का शेर है. पिरो तारे पलक में दानाए अश्क, पिरो तारे पलक में दानाए अश्क की तस्बीह सुलेमानी यही है. सो हियर ब्यूटिफुल शेर है एंड बहुत प्यारी तरह एक्सप्लेन करता है ये बात जो हम लोग कैप्चर कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे इस कपलेट में, कि use your eyelashes as a fine needle and thread to thread in the pearls of your tears. So thread in the pearls of your tears using your eyelashes as needle and thread, because that is the rosary which, when you work with, will give you the nirvana or will give you the ultimate wisdom or the ultimate meditation you're looking for. Normal rosary or normal subha or normal prayer beads will not do that. But these teardrops, if you were to thread them using your eyelashes, will give you a prayer bead necklace that is effective, that will get you what you want. By extension, feelings, emotions, pain, grief, all these things are actual beads which, when meditated on, will give you the wisdom that you are seeking. Just rotating normal wooden beads mechanically will not get you anywhere. Okay, moving on to the next sher. न आई सत्वते-कातिल भी माने मेरे नालों को, लिया दांतों में जो तिनका हुआ रेशा नयस्ता का. So, again, another type of destruction. Now, this time, actually execution. So, satwat-e-qatil. Satwat is the uh, magnificence, the aura, right, of the executioner, or the presence of the executioner, or the domineering presence of the executioner. So, Ghalib is saying that the presence of my executioner was not enough to subdue my cries. The straw that I clenched between my teeth transformed into a piece of reed and started producing music. So, there are a lot of background stories here that we will need to get into to understand this couplet uh, in totality. So, पहली स्टोरी तो ये है कि इन पर्शिया देयर वाज अ कस्टम that when you wanted to exhibit humility or humbleness in front of someone, you would clench a piece of straw or hay between your teeth and then present yourself to that person. Straw, hay, by its it was symbolic of something very simple, something very day to day, something very humble, nothing fancy, just basic bare bones, right? And that is why one would pick a piece of straw or hay, something which is so widely available, so nothing fancy about it, right? And then they would clench that piece of straw in between their teeth and present themselves, and that would be a symbolic action to say, I'm totally humbled in front of you. So when convicts used to go in front of the executioner to get executed, they would have this piece of straw between their teeth to establish the fact that we have nothing to say. We are totally humbled, we have been convicted, we are guilty, we have nothing to say, nothing to complain about, nothing remains pending at our end. We've come here, we will stand here in silence, and you will go ahead and execute us. That's the understanding. Now, that is the scenario Ghalib is conjuring up here. So he's saying, I am the guilty party in front of my beloved. I am guilty of loving her and probably creating an inconvenience for her because she, of course, doesn't love him back. It's unrequited love. So he's saying, I'm the guilty party in front of the beloved who is ready to now execute me for this crime of loving her, professing my love for her. And I came in front of her just like any other uh, convicted uh, guilty party with a straw between my teeth. I had full plans of staying subdued, silent, humbled in front of her while she executes me. But then this straw between my teeth suddenly transformed into a piece of reed. Now, reed is this hollow grass, usually grows in sugarcane fields. It's this hollow grass. It is widely used to make air instruments. Wherever you are using hollow pipes to create musical instruments, which are also called air instruments, you would use reed. So, reed is something, it is a material which is supposed to create music. Whenever air, or if you are breathing into it, blows through it, it will create music. So Ghalib is saying that all my plans of staying subdued and silent and not saying anything in front of her, while she convicts and executes me for the crime of loving her. Now, getting convicted and executed for loving somebody would make you want to say something. Make you want to say something. But Ghalib is saying, I had full plans of sticking to the tradition and being quiet and humble and subdued, while she unfairly, if I may, and that's me, not Ghalib, unfairly execute me for the crime of loving her. But then suddenly this piece of straw in my between my teeth turns into reed. And here I suddenly start speaking, lamenting, giving voice to all my feelings, all my pain, all my grief, trying to justify uh, my love, trying to question why I am being executed for just loving her and professing my love to her. So it's a beautiful scenario that he has weaved just to emphasize the fact that दोनों तरफ एक मजबूरी थी. There was a helplessness at both ends. She was helpless in terms of holding it against me that I loved her. So she wanted to execute me for loving her. She considered that a crime. It was an inconvenience to her. And at my end, I also had plans to do it the other way, but then my helplessness was that I could not keep quiet. I had to say something. I had to question what's happening, or at least explain my love. So both parties were helpless. They came to the table uh, to do things um, out of a helplessness. They could not circumvent. Otherwise, there was no reason for the beloved not to accept Ghalib's love, and they lived happily ever after. But she also, per her nature, personality, whatever, had this helplessness where she had to execute him for loving her, hold it against him for hold it against him, the love he had for her. And at Ghalib's end, it was speaking up for the love he felt. Moving on to the next sher. दिखाऊंगा तमाशा दी अगर फुर्सत ज़माने ने, मेरा हर दाग एक तुख्म है सर्वे चरागा का. So, let's do an approximate translation first. So, Ghalib is saying, if I get a chance, I will put on an exhibition. And in the second line, he says or details what exhibition. That every scar in my heart is a seed with the potential of growing a full-fledged cypress tree, which is filled with lights. So that's the approximate translation of the sher. Now, पहली लाइन में there are a few things that are worth unpacking. So दिखाऊंगा तमाशा, I will put on a show. I will put on an exhibition. Right? I will divulge. I will exhibit. If दी अगर फुर्सत ज़माने ने. Now, to me, it comes across as zamana, the world, right? In olden times, the society, the collective, which we can call world, was not very kind to lovers, and especially lovers who professed their love unabashedly, very vocally, right? And more so when that love was not reciprocated, right? Unrequited love. So it almost seems that Ghalib is saying that either the world will get to me and, either deem me crazy or just shun me, or either the worldly things will get to me, the strife, the loss, the lack, or this love will get to me, right? So there are a lot of things just waiting to get me while I go through this torture of loving someone who doesn't love me back and dealing with the pain and the grief and the loss it brings to the table. But if I survive all this, if the world lets me survive all this and gives me a chance, I promise to put an exhibition of such magnificence for you. And what is that exhibition? He explains it in the second line. He says, I will show you the scars of my heart. And Ghalib was one person who, again and again in his poetry, emphasizes the fact that the scars from this unrequited love, the pain from this unrequited love, is not something to shy away from. It's also not something to be ashamed of. It is also not something to hide. Sure, people will say, oh, what a failure, right? He loves someone who doesn't love him back. All this effort, all this sher shairi, and no response. Still unrequited love. But to Ghalib, that is not a valid deduction. That's not a correct assessment of his situation. According to Ghalib, just because it is not reciprocated back doesn't undermine or take away from the purity and integrity of the love I have. I am bringing 100% to the table. And I embrace love for its joys, and I embrace love for its scars and pain and grief and misery. I'm not someone who picks and chooses things which are convenient and fun filled and leave the rest. No, I take the whole package and I indulge in the entire package. So here Ghalib is saying that if I get an opportunity, I will share with you all the scars of my heart. And these scars he is very proud of. He is very proud of them because he says he's very proud of them, he's very confident of them. He thinks these scars are powerful. Some might think that these scars are something he should be ashamed of because, of course, these scars are symbolic of the wounds that were created because he loved someone and that person did not love him back. In fact, that person actually tortured him and gave him pain. But according to Ghalib, no, these scars are powerful. And he equates them to a seed. Every scar is equated to a seed with the potential to give birth to a full-fledged cypress tree. And he uses cypress specifically, sarv-e-charaghan. Sarva is a cypress tree. Charaghan is full of lamps, lit with lamps. So he's saying every scar is a seed that will give birth to a cypress tree fully laden with lit lamps. So just, I think, somewhere he's trying to capture the regenerative power of these scars. These are scars that can regenerate life. They are not dead, they are alive and have in them the birthing potential, and not just birthing a little skin or something like, no, birthing a full-fledged cypress tree, and not just a plain cypress tree, a full fledged cypress tree full of lights, lit up, illuminated, not flowers and fruits and leaves, but lit up and full with lights. So just his way of just his way of personifying his scars as an entity that has regenerative power, birthing potential, growth potential, potential for illumination, light. And then I wondered, why cypress tree, right? Why did he specifically call out cypress? He could have just said a tree lit with lamps. That would have done. So I did some background research to find that cypress tree has huge symbolic meaning across many cultures. uh, Europe, ancient Greece, Egypt, ancient China, and Native Americans. And of course, it also has a lot of symbolic significance in Islam. So, Islamic cemeteries are usually lined with cypress trees. It is believed that these trees have the power to connect the earthly world with heavens. They are symbolic of being a conduit for afterlife connect with heaven. Um, if so, cypress trees are these long, slender trees, and the sheer length of these trees almost makes them seem like reaching out to heaven. And that is where that whole concept of, well, uh, let's have these trees around cemeteries so that souls can, you know, reach heaven through them. Also during Muharram, cypress trees are used a lot to symbolize the sorry, to symbolize the mourning and remembrance of the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, the grandson of Prophet Muhammad. Because cypress trees, again, are considered to be trees which are very strong, and they stand, they hold their ground. They hold their ground against all trials and tribulations, and that is where that connect to the martyrdom and its remembrance during Muharram. So yeah, cypress trees are supposed to be very tall and majestic. They are evergreen, they have this resilience to them, and then they are associated with lot of sacred spaces, like I said, uh, Islamic cemeteries, burial sites, temples, because they create this atmosphere of tranquility. um, so I somehow think that Ghalib used cypress here because, in a way, he wanted to immortalize these scars. He wanted to give that additional layer of immortality to his scars. That I might die with all my pain and grief, but these scars are seeds which will grow one cypress tree per scar, and that tree will be lit with illuminated lamps, saying that even after I'm gone, these scars will go on to become something immortal, something with the potential of reaching God, right? So that's why I think there was a And Ghalib, there were no flukes with Ghalib. Everything was very intentional. Every alphabet, every word is very intentional. So if he used Cyprus, he had something in mind. Now, I am assuming it was this because Cyprus has this very established reputation of being a spiritual tree which connects uh, us here on earthly on the earthly world to heaven or life thereafter. So I think that is what he was trying to capture. Now, like I said, this is a very long ghazal, so I think we will stop here and we will do another episode for the rest of the couplets because I don't want the episode to be too long. आपकी सुनने की सहूलियत और हमारे रिकॉर्ड करने की सहूलियत दोनों को मद्देनज़र रखते हुए we will close it here for today and we'll pick it up in the next episode. I genuinely hope you enjoyed the impressions of the four couplets we covered today, and hopefully we will enjoy the next four too in the next episode. Till then, everybody, love and light. Thanks for watching.